Richard A. Lupoff, American science fiction author, mystery author, comic book fan, science fiction fan, great writer, and my friend. Hi, I'm Gary Lovisi, and yesterday on October 22nd, 2020, Richard A. Lupoff passed away. He was 85 years old. This is a little kind of a tribute to my friend Dick Lupoff. I want to do a tribute to celebrate his life and his work and just talk a little bit about him. We became friends and really liked each other a lot, and he was a great guy. Dick Lupoff was born February 21st, 1935 in Brooklyn, New York, which is where I live. And he was 85 when he passed away. And he was married to Pat, who Pat Lupoff was his other half, or better half. They were a loving couple that knew each other they were married for many, many years. She has since passed away before him. And they were involved very deeply into science fiction, early science fiction fandom, and even cosplay. And they would dress up in science fiction costumes at conventions in the 50s and 60s. And he published a fanzine, Yandro, which is very collectible. All kind of great stuff that he published, put out. I'm going to just put on my glasses so I can see some of the things. I want to show you a few things, some of his books and different things. I met Dick Lupoff basically through the books that Ballantine published of Edgar Rice Burroughs' John Carter of Mars books, because when those books came out, in the last book that was published by originally Canaveral Press from Brooklyn, Lupoff was in Brooklyn, and he was a young, maybe 17 or 18 years old. He was the editor of Canaveral Press, and then he wrote in 1965 the introduction to John Carter of Mars, which had 2 stories that were reprinted from Amazing Stories, and it's just like, this guy, wow, this is great, because he's like talking about Burroughs, and he's he's introducing these books in the John Carter series, and it was really cool. And I didn't know him at that time, and I didn't know how how young he was, but I'd end up meeting him many years later. We became friends through my magazine, Paperback Parade. I got to know him. I interviewed him. And he came over even to visit one time, and we had a great time. I'm just going to go through some of his books and then talk about some of the other things and show some pictures, photos of Dick with other authors at my book shows that he came to. Lupoff's first book was from 1967, a Lancer book, 1 Million Centuries. Some other books that he did, Sword of the Demon in 1978, which was an Avon book based on Japanese mythology. And one of the famous ones, this is the first paperback printing in 1989, is The Comic Book Killer. And The Comic Book Killer is a novel, mystery novel. Hobart Lindsay and Marvia Plum, they start out in this edition, this book, and they continue in a few other books in the series. And they're just each book in the series, he's an insurance investigator, and it has to do with some form of collectibles. So in this, The Comic Book Killer, of course, it's rare comic books. And when this book came out, I actually met Dick Lupoff, and I showed him my collection of science fiction fantasy books at the warehouse where I have everything stored. And he was just like blown away by it. And we had a great time just looking at stuff and showing him things, that kind of blowing his mind with some stuff that he'd never seen before. And so the second book in the series was The Cover Girl Killer, that had to do with paperbacks. And so the hardcover books, Comic Book Killer, this is the first edition. It was published by Offspring Press in 1988. And the next book in the series came out in a year or two later, was The Cover Girl Killer. And the interesting thing about this book is that the collectible area is vintage paperbacks. And there's a whole story about how a famous World War II soldier and book cover artist has disappeared, and there's interesting things about a rare paperback edition. And Dick Lupoff also wrote a few other people into this book. He wrote actually he wrote me in the book, and mentioned Paperback Parade. But he also wrote Art Scott, who's a famous, well-known paperback collector and scholar and author of books on McGinnis. And there's things in this. He has him as Artie Scott. He kind of changed his name around. And Art Scott's a great guy, and he's a very knowledgeable fellow on vintage paperbacks of all kinds, especially on McGinnis. And there's things in the book where he has Art Scott talk about, I got to write this damn article for Lovisi for Paperback Parade. And he goes, who's he? Oh, he's this crazy guy in Brooklyn that does this magazine about vintage paperbacks. And he goes, well, why? Why do people collect these books? And he says, I don't know. It's just like, so he's just, it was just like, it's just fun. And he put all that stuff in the book, but they're great books. And the cool thing about this is that they were looking, Gordon Van Gelder was the editor at St. Martin's Press. This is the St. Martin's edition. And Gordon Van Gelder wanted to do some kind of a giveaway promotional item that he could have his jobbers, when they went to the various book dealers and bookstores and everything, just give them a little something, kind of a thing to highlight and showcase the book. They started doing this for each one of the books in the series. In the Comic Book Killer, there was a comic book that was published, a color comic, and it's actually reprinted later on in the book, in this edition in black and white. So in the original slipcase edition, it's in color, and there was also a separate comic book edition which I had, which was lost in the Hurricane Sandy. But the book for The Cover Girl Killer was this little beauty, Death in the Ditch, by Del Marsden. Now, Del Marsden is a pseudonym of Richard Lupoff. This is a story that was published in England in New Crimes, and Lupoff and actually myself, we both had stories in that issue. And what they did was they made a little kind of vintage paperback, and it's 1984, 1995 kind of Page Publications, because that's the name of the company in the Cover Girl Killer, where they're looking for that rare edition paperback that has certain special things in it. And so this is Lupoff's original hard-boiled crime story, but they needed to get a some nice vintage cover art, and cover art here is by Walter Popp, who I knew, and I brokered the deal where Walter Popp would let them use the artwork from one of his graphic paperbacks from the 50s and the back cover art on this little maybe 48-page thin little paperback that was given out with the CoverGirl Killer. So that's kind of the story behind that. Walter loved it. Gordon at St. Martin's loved it. Dick Lupoff loved it. And it's a kind of a scarce little item, not generally known. I think they just maybe 100 copies were made just for distribution to the St. Martin's Press people to give to some of the bookstore owners and stuff. So this is kind of pretty scarce. I had about a dozen of them over the years. I've given them away to different people and stuff, and so I have a couple left. But it's a nice little item, and it's really cool, and it's a great hard-boiled story. Lupoff was writing as Del Marsden, a tough guy, private eye, and in the Spillane style, and he was having a lot of fun with this story. A couple of the other books in the series, just to show you. From 1994, there was the Bessie Blue Killer, and this had to do with the Tuskegee Airmen, and I believe they gave out a little aluminum old aeroplane, like a little charm kind of aeroplane with this book. And another one in the series is the Sepia Siren Killer. And the story is it's a Hobart Lindsay, Marvia Plum. Hobart's a kind of not a tough guy insurance investigator who's trying to do his cases and trying to find out what the mystery is with all of these collectible things that he becomes the company's go-to guy for whenever there's art or some kind of collectible or something that's missing, and he handles those mysteries. And Marvia Plum is an African-American woman who joins him, and they continue with their investigations. And it's a great series. And well, Lupoff was known for science fiction, and he loved science fiction and wrote a lot of it. He also wrote mystery and crime, and among a lot of other things, and was really, really good at it. I'm just going to show you a few other things now, just to celebrate Richard Lupoff's life and his work. Some photos. These are from 1998 from my book show. This is Dick at the show, and this is again another photo from 1998, and it's Dick Lupoff and Barry Malzberg, F. Paul Wilson, and Ron Goulart. And again from 1998. At the New York City Book Show, Dick Lupoff, myself, and F. Paul Wilson.
You look chubby.
So that's us in those days. Younger. We were all younger. Everybody was younger. It's amazing. Amazing. Everybody was younger. Jeez. And then a few years later, in 2002, we have myself, Dick Lupoff, Henry Morrison, who was an agent and author, and Julius Fast, who won the first Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award. And just 2002, just great happy days of, all friends, authors. 2002, Lupoff and F. Paul Wilson. Again at my show, 2002, is Dick with Ron Goulart. Ron Goulart's a great guy. Yeah. He came to every show, and he was very, very popular with the fans.
I love the way he signed books.
And he would, yes, he would. It's interesting because on the West Coast, William F. Nolan does similar thing. Both of them, Ron Goulart and William F. Nolan, are artists and, as well as writers. And when they sign books, they always draw little caricatures or little cartoons and things that are really add to the enjoyment of having that book signed by Ron Goulart and William F. Nolan also. And the last one is from 2002 again, and is Dick Lupoff, Julius Fast, and Philip Klass, who was better known to science fiction authors as William Tenn. And just some of the guests that we had at my shows. I did the shows from 1989 to 2013 for 25 years in New York City, and Vintage Paperback Pulp Fiction Expo, and it was great to have Dick Lupoff and everybody as guests at these shows. Some of the other things that I just want to show you are just, I published a lot of Dick Lupoff's books and stories in Hardboiled and other places. I published Writer at Large, which was a compilation of his nonfiction articles and nonfiction articles, various things that have to do with, some of it was true crime, some of it is just like he has a talk, an article where he talks to and about Philip K. Dick, because he knew Philip K. Dick, and it's like an interesting thing. One of the books that I really loved publishing was Barsoom, Edgar Rice Burroughs and the Martian Vision, and this is a terrific book by Lupoff about the John Carter of Mars books by Edgar Rice Burroughs. It was published by Mirage Press in I believe in the 70s, and it was kind of a rare, scarce hardcover. And I published it, reprinted it with a new George Barr cover art. Did a lot of things together. Lupoff and me, I did an introduction for his Sherlock Holmes book of stories, pastiche stories. He did an introduction, an afterword for my book, Secret Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, an afterword by Richard Lupoff, and this has my Edgar-nominated story in it. But and the interesting thing about this book also was we did it as a kind of a Del Mapp back. It's a Ramble House edition. It's the first book in in this Secret Adventures of Sherlock Holmes series that I've done for Ramble House. It collects all my stories, a lot of them from Sherlock Holmes Mystery Magazine and from other anthologies and stuff. And Dick Lupoff was gracious enough to do a afterward, which is really nice of him to do. And there's so many things. Lupoff was just one of the best books that he did. Was a magnificent book. Was the Great American Paperback. It weighs about 4 pounds, and it's just chock full of. I can just show you. Just color, beautiful, well designed, and he did a lot of research on the books, on the publishers, authors, and the artists for this book. It's just a terrific book. Probably one of the best books written on vintage paperbacks. And that is the Great American Paperback. I haven't seen Dick Lupoff in I guess about 5 or 6 years, maybe longer, maybe more like 10 years. I used to go out to LA all the time and see him there, and sometimes he would come out to New York for my show, and we were always in. Nevertheless, we were always in contact through email and doing projects together and things, and it was always a pleasure to do projects with him and to know him and to be a friend with him, because he was just a really sweet guy, really great guy, very it was like he was like a big kid kind of. I mean, even at in his 70s and 80s, he was really like, you got to take off some of that age and say that he really wasn't 70 or 80. He was 7 or 8, and he was like 7 or 8 years old, like a kid that has just like fallen in love with science fiction, vintage paperbacks, pulp magazines, comic books, and he knew all that stuff. He collected them. He wrote in every genre. He wrote a lot of really good stuff, and he wrote a lot of reviews, a lot of articles, a lot of very, All in Color for a Dime, which is a story of comic books, and many other fantastic, terrific books. I've just shown a little sampling here, and it's just a bibliography of Richard A. Lupoff's fiction and nonfiction would be a nice big thick book, because he wrote a lot, and he did a lot of great stuff. And he's a really nice guy, really good guy. I'm going to miss him. I think a lot of people are going to miss him, because
It's a big loss too.
he's a big loss to the field, but he's a big loss in everybody's heart, because the people that knew him, he was a really sweet guy, and Pat too. Pat was the love of his life. As I say, she passed away a few years earlier than he did. Wonderful woman. They were a wonderful couple. Just terrific people, and we're gonna all miss him. Anybody who knew Dick Lupoff, we're all gonna miss him very much. And
but he left us so much.
And he did. He left us so many great stories, so much wonderful, fantastic action and adventure. It's just terrific characters, and books about comic books, paperbacks, pulp magazines, all the kind of things that, he was there when a lot of this stuff was being done. He was a teenage boy in the 50s when all of this stuff was being written and produced, and he harkens back to the time even before in the 30s and 40s, but also he was intimately involved with publishing in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. He was a friend to everybody. He never said a bad word about anybody, and I never heard a bad word said about him. I mean, 85-year-old gentleman who had class, and is just a really very decent, good man, and somebody that we all will miss a lot. So I just wanted to, because I heard that that Dick died yesterday, and I just want to do this tribute to him. I don't want it to be a sad thing. I want it to be a tribute about a person's great life, because he had a great life. He did great
celebration
things.
Of his work.
And celebrate him and Pat and his work, which will live on. His work will live on after him. People will be enjoying these stories 100 years from now. His books and all his work will be remembered, and so will he, because in our hearts, all the people that knew him will never forget him. So I want to thank you, Richard A. Lupoff, for everything. I miss you, and God bless. And just want to say thank you for looking at this tribute, and I hope you liked what I've had to say. I'm sure everybody has their own stories about Dick Lupoff. A lot of people knew him, and he was like a gregarious person who was always out there making friends and and you know, so many people knew him. But I just hope that you enjoy this tribute to a really fine man and a great talent in many genres of writing. And I want to thank you for looking, and see you next time.